October 1962. Across quiet American neighborhoods, porch lights glow softly in the evening air. Families finish dinner. Children prepare for school the next morning. But inside living rooms across the country, something feels different. Television sets flicker to life, and the President of the United States begins to speak. John F. Kennedy's voice is steady but grave. The United States has discovered nuclear missile bases under construction just 90 miles from Florida, in Cuba, operated by the Soviet Union. In that moment, the Cold War stops being distant politics. It becomes personal. It becomes immediate. And for 13 days, the world stands on the edge of nuclear war. To understand how close we came to disaster, we must go back. The United States and the Soviet Union had been locked in a struggle for global power since the end of World War II. Two superpowers, two nuclear arsenals, two very different visions of the world. When Fidel Castro aligned Cuba with Moscow, it placed a communist ally directly in America's backyard. In 1962, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev made a bold and dangerous decision. Secretly installed nuclear missiles in Cuba. Missiles capable of striking Washington, D.C., New York, and much of the continental United States within minutes. The gamble was enormous, but so were the risks. On October 14th, an American U-2 spy plane flew high over Cuba. What it photographed would change history. Long, narrow launch sites, missile transport vehicles, construction crews working rapidly. Proof that nuclear weapons were being prepared. When the images were placed on the president's desk, there was no longer any doubt. The Soviet Union had moved first. Now the question was, how should America respond? Inside the White House, the atmosphere turned tense. Military leaders urged immediate airstrikes. Some demanded a full invasion of Cuba. Others warned that any attack could trigger a Soviet response, perhaps in Berlin, perhaps in Turkey, perhaps anywhere. And if one side launched nuclear weapons, the other would respond. President Kennedy understood something deeply frightening. There would be no winners in a nuclear war, only survivors, if there were any. Instead of bombing Cuba, Kennedy chose a different path, a naval blockade. American warships would form a defensive ring around Cuba. Any Soviet ship carrying military equipment would be stopped. It was a measured move, but it was still an act of confrontation. Across the Atlantic, Soviet ships continued moving toward the blockade line. The world held its breath. Would they turn back? Or would they push forward, forcing the first direct clash between nuclear superpowers? Back home, ordinary citizens felt the fear. Parents quietly discussed fallout shelters. Schools practiced duck and cover drills. Some families stocked canned food and bottled water. Others simply prayed. For many older Americans today, the memory remains vivid. The quiet tension, the waiting, the uncertainty of whether tomorrow would come. Beneath the ocean's surface, an even more dangerous moment unfolded. A Soviet submarine, armed with a nuclear torpedo, was being tracked by American forces. Depth charges were dropped, not to destroy, but to signal the submarine to surface. Inside, temperatures were rising. Communication with Moscow had been lost. Some officers believed war may have already begun, and they considered launching the nuclear torpedo. One decision, one launch, that is all it would have taken. But a single Soviet officer, Vasily Arkhipov, refused to authorize it. His calm judgment may have prevented nuclear war that day. After days of secret letters and tense negotiations, a solution emerged. The Soviet Union would remove its nuclear missiles from Cuba.
In return, the United States secretly agreed to remove its nuclear missiles from Turkey. The crisis ended, but the lesson remained. For 13 days in October 1962, humanity stood closer to annihilation than ever before. Not because of hatred, not because of chaos, but because of fear, miscalculation, and power. And perhaps because of a few steady hands, the world survived.